We're going to talk about strategic portfolio management and specifically try to get into how to maximize value from IT investments. So I think most of us know that strategic portfolio management is more than just tracking projects. Really, at the heart of portfolio management, it's about aligning every initiative with business strategy and making sure that your resources are focused on what matters most. Again, I'd like to start by talking about a few best practices to keep in mind. And just to keep us aligned somewhat with the slide, since the question came up on the previous one, a lot of these best practices are reflected throughout the SPM cadence in the middle of the slide. So first of all, the first best practice I want you to keep in mind is that we really need to be aligning everything within our portfolio with strategic objectives. Ensure that every project or program is clearly tied to a business goal. This alignment helps justify funding and helps keep teams focused on outcomes. Now, another element or a next best practice would be prioritized based on value and risk. We need to use scoring models or value frameworks to evaluate initiatives based on impact, urgency, and risk. And I'm not going into multiple different types of scoring models today, but we know there's a way to align to strategic objectives or calculate ROI. Any or all of these will allow you to make informed trade-offs when resources are limited. I think on top of these basics of aligning portfolios with objectives and making sure we have some prioritization techniques is to really start to enable real-time visibility. So what could be aligned to this execute and monitor stage would be to use dashboards and reporting tools that give stakeholders a clear, up-to-date view of portfolio performance. Now, when I present on these type of topics live, I see a lot of head nodding that goes on that says, well, we're doing something today, but is it truly clear, up-to-date view, and can you dive deep into current performance of projects, programs, products within the portfolio? We know that if we're doing this right, transparency is going to build trust and enable faster decision making. In addition to just real-time visibility, we definitely want to get governance teams together, establish governance and a review cadence, a regular governance and review cadence. Regular portfolio reviews help ensure that priorities stay aligned as business needs evolve. This is especially important in dynamic environments like a specific IT or digital transformation. All right, let's talk about then, once we have these SPM practices in place, how do we ensure that IT investments are delivering measurable value? I don't have this on the slide, but let's talk to how you can make sure you maximize value from your IT investments. First of all, you need to define value metrics early. Don't wait until the end of a project to define success. Establish KPIs and value metrics upfront, whether it's cost savings, revenue impact, customer experience, whatever metrics you're tracking, make sure you define them early and upfront, because then you'll have the ability to track benefit realization. This is the biggest gap I see in organizations when we talk about maturity for strategic portfolio management, when we talk about maximizing value. If we're not tracking benefit realizations, we're not able to validate the ROI and inform future investment decisions. So again, we need to build processes that track and report on benefits over time, not just during the project execution, but after it's delivered. Finally, in order to maximize value, we have to reallocate underperforming spend. Another difficult piece for organizations to get to. We need to use that performance data that we said we were going to track and we were going to monitor. We need to use performance data to identify initiatives that are not delivering expected value. And we have to be willing to pivot or reallocate those resources to higher impact areas. The client example I'd like to talk about with this slide up is one that I title Recalibrating for Value, and it's around a Northeast utility company. So a large utility in the Northeast discovered a critical gap in their portfolio management approach. And I think it's one that you're going to see in most of your organizations as well. They were not stopping underperforming projects, even those projects that failed to deliver expected value or meet business objectives, and even somewhat meet business objectives. To address this, they implemented a quarterly portfolio review as part of their execute and monitor stage. And this process allowed them to do a number of things. First of all, on a regular basis, in this case quarterly, reassess project performance against strategic goals. How well were they doing? And then reallocate funding from low value or stalled projects to higher impact initiatives. Obviously, you need to get the executive buy-in to this approach and to the data that they're looking at in order to be able to make those types of decisions. Finally, they they were also able to redirect unused funds to other strategic priorities. So what I mean by that, if projects hadn't started or if they were unable to get started, they reused those funds and gave them to other areas where the budget that was underutilized. So the overall gain here is that disciplined approach not only improved the ROI across their portfolio, but it fostered a culture of accountability and agility as they were making ongoing investment decisions.